Hello, my name is Margaret Adele, and I am behind schedule. Usually I try to get the review for a book out within a couple days of reading it, and at this point it's been like a week because I blinked and a week had passed. But I am finally here to review The City of the Dragon by Anna Mantovani. I actually already included this in June's wrap-up, but I have not put out the review yet. That's how well I'm doing right now. Regardless, this is the sequel in the trilogy of Europa. This is after the Dragon Plague, all about a futuristic fantasy sci-fi mix of a dystopian where this dragon plague broke out and people basically created one giant unified European state, and it was, tyrannical government. And our protagonists from the first book, I felt like their arcs were a little bit slow to pick off, but the ending of the first book took off. It was gigantic, it was big, and because this is the sequel, I get to talk about it. So if you don't want to be spoiled, I will put the first book's review down in the description below. Okay? Okay. So at the end of the first book, it's revealed that Sophie, our female protagonist, has come down with the plague. That she's been not fully sick yet, but it's in her system and it's only a matter of time. Like, she knows it's there, she knows it's coming. And I feel like I almost would have preferred seeing the tension of it coming at her, whereas it actually kind of jumps ahead and it goes right into her having the illness, and it was really deeply descriptive, and I appreciated that much. I also appreciated that our antagonist Kathleen was so much bigger in this book, although the twist from the ending of who Emma Lemaire was very good. I appreciated it a lot, and I was really intrigued to see how well she would take over the country, and things happen very fast, a lot faster than the first one, actually. In the first one, I actually commented that it felt like it took a while to pick up, and once it did pick up, it was great, but it was like, I have two protagonists that are totally oblivious to the world around them. You have Sophie, the doctor, who lives such a tiny life that she barely has any friends, and you have Eric, who works in the medical police, who is just kind of a family guy chilling out, and both of them are completely unaware, which is kind of standard for dystopians, but it took them a while to realize things and start doing things because they realized things. And once that happened, it was awesome. And in this book, it's a lot bigger. The focus is less on their lives and their realization of what their society is, and more the society as a whole. As a result, it kind of came with a little bit of a disconnected feeling, because it was like a group of leaders sitting around talking, and then a general overview of how that affected the masses. You didn't really get that boots on the ground type feeling, which kind of lessens some of the impact in certain areas where they're talking about, like, the rebels are getting arrested, and they talk in an overview about how poorly they're treated when they're arrested. But you don't actually, like, see through the eyes of someone going through it, which I think would have given it a little bit more depth and a little bit more power. But I was still happy with how quickly things were moving. This is definitely not a slow book. Now, that did have the strange effect of it got even faster at the end. Like, it was still an even faster pace at the end, and there were some gigantic reveals, huge reveals, that happened, like, one right after the other in the last, like, 75 pages or so, and it made it go, like, really fast. And I can't tell how much I liked that or not, because, I don't know, part of me would have liked a little bit more even pacing, but the other part of me loves gigantic endings, and this one definitely had that. The only thing I would say is, and this might be because I know that it's the sequel in a trilogy, so obviously things aren't gonna end necessarily on a very happy, completed note, because there's a whole other book. Certain plans and things that were made, it was kind of obvious to anyone who understands basic story structure that that plan wasn't going to go well at all. And it was kind of hard to be, like, excited for that plan when I knew going in, like, this is the sequel in a trilogy. None of this is going to end happily. But maybe if I hadn't known that, or if I had considered it as a duology in my mind, I might have been more excited. One of the other places where I really struggled was Eric annoys me. to no end. The character of Eric was, at the end of the first book, he has these big revelations, and it seems like he's finally realizing the error of his thought processes and relying on the system so wholeheartedly, and you think he's going to get maybe a little bit more radicalized. No, not really. In fact, he pretty much goes right back to who he was, just for a different leader, for a different government, essentially. He has not learned to maybe not wholeheartedly trust that everyone in a position of power is there for the right reasons yet. And it feels a little bit strange that someone who was in the police, that is as old as he is, to go right back to, okay, yeah, that government was bad, but this one is clearly on the up and up, totally. And it's like, have you learned nothing? Sophie, on the other hand, did have a much more satisfying character arc. She had a very kind of bland, boring life beforehand, and here you see her kind of like grabbing at her own power and making friends and connections, because that was a big part of her character from the first one, is that she had like no friends. She had one friend. Amanda Solarin was like her only friend. And this one, she's got like a community and a connection and responsibilities, and she feels more rounded. The one thing with her is, I don't know if she was supposed to have this character arc and I just missed it, or if a character is just saying stuff to say stuff and it's not supposed to land. And I'm going to try to speak about this without being too spoilery, but there is a moment near the end of the book when another character is like trying to give her like this truth moment, this mind blow moment where like, can't you see you're this? And she is like thinking to herself, oh my gosh, am I that? And I'm sitting there going, no. Like, I do not believe that you are the type of person this character said you are, even though it's kind of like framed as this realization, like, I've been here watching the entire time, and no. So I don't know if that was just that character supposed to be going off and a beginning of a character arc for her, struggling with who am I? Or, you know, that was meant to be an actual mind blow moment, and I just didn't get enough hints and things leading up to that would lead me to believe that's where she ended the first book, or the second book at, rather. But hers was probably my favorite of the arc, the coming to power and struggling within, having responsibility in ways that she never had responsibility before, but also low-key kind of liking that she has all this responsibility now and getting to actually make decisions as opposed to waiting for someone else. The book also, like, kind of low-key flirted with a love triangle, and it's really hard to explain because the romance in both of these books, first and second, are very subtle. Like, if you like YA romance, it's gonna feel like there's no romance here because it's so subtle, to the extent that there was a sex scene, not explicit, just, you know, fade to black, it happened in this book, and I don't fully believe it. And I am like aromantic. Like, as I film this, I am reading a romance novel. I'm here for it. I just was like, really? That came out of left field. I don't believe in this romance at all. Not here for it. And then, like, low-key, there's like some little vague hints, and I wouldn't even know that those were the hints they were supposed to be if there hadn't been similar hints in the first book that led to something. Like, that's how I know it's supposed to be the start of something. Maybe I just like more melodrama in my romance. I don't know. But it definitely felt like, well, I don't like love triangles at all. Do not like them. They never do it for me. But this one, I was like, I almost can forgive it because, like, it's such a subtle one and has fairly little bearing on the plot, except for, like, you know, interpersonal dynamics that, like, it's whatever. Like, the romances aren't magically changing things. Again, the ending was very gigantic, very big. There were particularly some reveals involving our antagonist that I particularly enjoyed. I have literally no idea where it's going to go next. I don't know how you can top the end of this book. It's very big, bigger than the first book, and the first book already had a fairly big ending. And like, I'm trying to think like how part of me almost is expecting like a time jump. Like maybe some kind of time jump will help wrap some things up and let some things calm down to move forward. But I'll be interested to see how that goes. I am intrigued to keep reading to finish out the trilogy. I gave this book 4 stars. I enjoyed how big it was. I enjoyed how much faster it moved. Eric still bugs me. And again, he did have one of those big realization moments, but considering the fact that he also had one of those at the end of the first book, and it didn't go anywhere, I don't have high hopes. And also, like, the book low-key flirted with him going to the dark side, and that really intrigued me. That was actually really cool. I wouldn't mind if you went to the dark side. But regardless, I would highly suggest this book if you read the first one and enjoyed it. This is more the same dystopian dragon goodness. Now, if you are an indie author and you would like a review like this one, please send me an email. I will have my email down in the description below. I am currently like soft closed to reviews, meaning I am focusing purely on very, very diverse authors. So it might be more likely that you'll get a no this time around, but I am hopefully trying to get fully open to reviews again soon. And be sure to also read my review policy. I will have that down in the description below as well. And with nothing else to say, I hope you have a wonderful day and a marvelous tomorrow.